Well, good afternoon and welcome to another Clearwater Jazz Holiday Foundation's Young Lions Jazz Master Virtual Sessions. I'm going to be your guest host today, Michael Kernodle, and today's educator is Mark Feinman, and his topic is developing fluidity on the drum set. I know this is going to be awesome. Don't forget, if you have any questions, just go in that chat feature and type it in, and we'll try to reserve some time at the end to answer anything. And also, check out our free sessions over there on the website, www.clearwaterjazz.com/education. We would love for you to join us on each and every one of these. And if you have any suggestions, any topics you'd like us to discuss, you can always email us over there at info@clearwaterjazz.com. Just some of the past sessions that we've had, Mark. We had history of the rhythm section and collaboration. How about this one? Playing better with brushes. How, when, why, and where. I know that was a great one. And he's always also been a part of our What I Love About series. He did a series on Papa Joe Jones, Max Roach, Elvin Jones, my goodness, Art Blakey. And those are all in the archive. You can always go back and check them out. And just a little bit about Mark. He's no visitor to here in Clearwater Jazz. He's part of that awesome group based here in Tampa Bay now, La Lucha. La Lucha. I know you've heard them out there. You've been to their concerts and been amazed. Well, you're going to hear one of the masterminds of that group today. And their music ventures into the wide variety of musical styles and offers a fun mix of genres under the jazz umbrella. They've received countless accolades and have extensive national and international performance experience, including several plays at the Clearwater Jazz Holiday Music Festival. And you can check them out at laluchamusic.com. And Mark is a drummer. You figured that out by now. He's a composer and an educator who is inspired by individual human experiences and a diverse range of musical influences. He has extensive performance experience playing with wonderful musicians. And he also was awarded an Emerging Artist Grant from Creative Pinellas. I know that was huge. And he's an instructor at St. Pete College. So Mark Feinman, welcome back. And the stage is all yours.
Thank you so much, Michael. And thank you so much to the Clearwater Jazz Foundation and the Jazz Holiday and the Young Lion Sessions. I really enjoy working with everyone out there. It's been a fun, wild year teaching online, and I'm so glad that you've been along for the ride. I've been happy to bring topics to you. This is a continuing kind of series in kind of my drumming workshops. You don't have to see or visit the other sessions as a prerequisite to this one, but there are some things that I talk about and that we're kind of continuing from those previous sessions. So today we're talking about developing fluidity on the drums. Oh, I couldn't even flow over that word fluidity. Developing fluidity on the drums. This is something you want to do on any and all of your instruments. Just have the sense of flow and grace, and, so it feels natural, and, the way you're moving around your instrument is smooth. So I want to go back to this word fluidity and its relationship to the word flow. And as I've mentioned in previous classes and previous sessions, that the word rhythm has Greek roots from the word rhythmos, which or rhythmos, which I think just sounds like an awesome kind of Marvel character, rhythmos. And this word rhythmos is related to the word Rhine. We know the Rhine as a very long river running through Europe and Asia, and Rhine actually translates to the word flow, which has a lot to do with water and in general, anything that flows. So rhythm is related to the word flow. It's the easy way to say it. And that's what we want to do. That's kind of the goal of when we play. We want to have this fluidity. When you're communicating and you're conversing with somebody, you have a flow in what you say. And when you're having this conversation back and forth, there should be a flow. If you've ever seen anything by the writer Aaron Sorkin, there's a very fast flow and things are happening very quickly, but there is a flow to the writing and the communication between his characters. If you listen to jazz, this is one of the most important things to have, because there's a lot of interaction where somebody plays something and you want to respond to that, and you want to respond to it with your idea very clearly, because they brought that idea to you, very concise and clear. And so you want to be able to have that conversation back and forth. If you're getting stuck, there's something there, there's a barrier there that we need to get over and figure that out. So there's a few things that I do. I work a lot on fluidity and a lot on flow, and I'd like to share with my secrets with you. First off, I hope that everybody's doing well and safe, and I'm happy that you're joining and that you're continuing to stay safe, because we're still at home right now. And so these are things that you can work on your instrument, on the drums, off the drums. I'm not always on my drum set, but when I'm off the drum set, I'm practicing these things and I'm visualizing them, I'm thinking about them, and we're going to get to that as well. The first thing, in order to create, in order to have fluidity on the drum set, is a good sense of technique. Technique is, in short, allowing the sticks and the feet to move freely and naturally. You don't ever want to get stuck in something that you're saying or something that you're playing. If I started to speak like this and it was kind of jumping around, you can see there's no flow into the sentence of what I'm saying. You'd like to have a flow. You'd like to be able to, create the words and the sentences naturally. That's why we practice our ABCs and the sounds of them. I'm watching my daughter go through this now, pronunciating words and sounds and figuring it out so that it gets in your tongue, in your mouth in a certain way. We do that on the drums. So simply just throwing the stick down and letting it. Now I can throw the stick down and let it stay down. I can also start from the bottom and come back up. I'm controlling that in my wrists. Another way to do that is allow the stick to bounce. So when I throw the stick down, it comes right back up. I want to be able to control that bounce. I'm going to turn my volume up just a little bit. So I can control how high I want that stick to come down. You don't want to hurt yourself. You don't want it to feel unnatural. Technique is how you're hitting the drums. If I'm kind of sitting like this and I start to like this, that doesn't look natural to me. It might feel natural to you. And over years of practice and time, that might be the technique you develop. You might start having shoulder and back pain after a while, and that's not sustainable for a career. Not saying that you need to go into this as a career, but in a sustainable life of playing the drums. So technique is just getting comfortable with how you hit the drums. That's first of all. There's a lot of different technique that we can dive into, and how you play the drum, how you hit the drum, how you sit at the drums. I sit up pretty high. The camera's coming down, but I'm kind of parallel to the drums. I'm kind of over them a little bit. The cymbals are not above me, and that's okay. So I'm kind of playing down. I'm using a lot of gravity when I'm playing. I use the gravity. I use the bounce in the stick. I don't depend on a lot of my wrists, but I do have wrist control. I know how hard I can throw the stick back up. I use this kind of like as a lever, right? So the next thing, once we have technique together, and if you're having some issues with pain, or anything else in your body, feel free to send me a message. I'd be happy to talk to you about and looking at how your technique is working. If there's something there, taking a video of yourself from the side and front, even from the back, 30 seconds each, is a wonderful way of seeing if something is happening that you're not noticing. It's not about listening to yourself playing and checking you out and digging what you're doing. It's about just understanding, hey, I want to, what's going on here? I noticed something I'm about to talk about, that when I was playing, I would hold my breath a lot and I would make this face. People used to call it my ugly face. I think I hope I don't have the ugly face anymore, but I make faces occasionally. But I realized I was holding my breath, and breathing is the most important thing when you're playing and for fluidity. If you had water flowing down a river and you put up a barricade to stop it, or put up a dam, it stops breathing, it stops moving. If you're moving things from one end to the other, it's not going to get there because you've now stopped that flow. You have something stopping that flow, and it's going to flow into other places possibly. So I want to talk about smooth motion around the drums. I also call this choreography. There's a few different things. I'm going to list them, and then I'll hit each one of them. I wrote them down so I wouldn't forget. One is static movement versus dynamic movement. We're going to get to it. Breathing, we talked about it. Knowing your instrument and the physics around it. Thinking ahead while you're playing, and hearing and visualizing what you want to play, or what it is, how you want to sound. The first thing is static movement versus dynamic movement. Let's define and listen to each of these. Static movement is something that is kind of almost still in one place. If you're playing, if you're hearing a lot of pop music on the radio, or you're playing possibly like top 40 gigs, you might be playing a lot of static movement, meaning I'm going to play one beat and I'm not going to move from that. Okay, so I played the beat, and at the end I had a little snare drum fill there. And I thought about that, where it was placed and how I was going to do that, and getting back to the beat. Now, the thing is, it's all about consistency. I'm not moving my arms and body a lot. I'm not doing this. My head is moving. Certainly my arms and my legs are moving a little bit. My body is very static. The groove is very static. There's very little movement. But the movement that I do make, I have to breathe. I have to have something there. If I tried not to move at all, you can hear that the energy suffers a little bit. And I'm not talking about volume. I'm just talking about all energy in general, the idea of it, how it feels. Okay, that is static movement. That's very difficult. Something that could be even more difficult is dynamic movement. When you're playing jazz, there's a lot of movement. I'm moving between cymbals. I'm moving between drums. And you want to do that freely. You can see how much more movement there is here. I hope you heard that okay. That is something, you know, in the style of jazz, and it has more movement to it. It has dynamic movement. I have to think about where I'm going, what I'm hitting, why am I hitting the drums here? And I talk about that in my previous sessions with comping and the triplets. And so dynamic movement is moving around quite a bit, okay? Breathing through the fills. Don't hold your breath. Your shoulders might go up. You might make a face. You might lean back. I used to lean back a lot. You know, it's taking me away from the drums. There's going to be times where I might need to lean, or I might, lean in. But I have to breathe through all of those. Let me play the same thing, and I'm going to kind of say aloud when I'm breathing. I'm breathing here, obviously. Breathing. Big breath. Big breath there. Big breath. I'll actually breathe through that. If you're thinking of a swimmer when they're swimming and they come up for that stroke like this motion of I'm breathing right there, I'm doing the same thing while I'm playing. I'm thinking about taking the breath and breathing through that fill, breathing through these comping patterns. If I'm playing very fast, my breathing is not going to be fast. I'm not going to go. I'm actually going to breathe even bigger. In, out. In, out. In, out. Right there in that fill, don't hold your breath. Try to get that breath going out on the fill. You don't want to also push the tempo, but that's something to work on as well. Breathing with tempos as well. It's a little more advanced. Breathing's hard. It's easy to breathe in, but once you think about it, it's like, why am I thinking about breathing? Okay. We might come back to breath. It's pretty important. Okay, knowing your instrument and physics. I don't mean that you should go and get a physics degree, or you should know that this is the drum key of the instrument. What I mean is you should know where your drums are placed in front of you, and kind of how far it is to get there. If I was to close my eyes, I could get pretty close to the center of any part of the drum. Just knowing what your drums feel like. Knowing what drums feel like. When I played in a lot of different places or if I play a lot of festivals or venues that have drums, I'm not on my own drums, but I set them up pretty close to this and I tune them pretty close to this so that I'm very comfortable. I think it's cool for you to change up your setting or to raise things and lower things. Just be aware of the physical movement that your arm or your hand's gonna be in, but I'm comfortable with the way that I'm playing, and so I just try to bring that comfort level wherever I am. Even if I tune down this tom, I hit the same tom over here, but it's tuned down like an octave, like very low pop tuning. And I have to play it differently because this one is high pitched and it has a bounce to it. That one doesn't really have a rebound to it. So I have to know that when I hit that drum, I might go through it a little bit more. And so just knowing how to get to your drums, right? My arms are extended here. My arms are closer here, right? Knowing that I have to. Sometimes I don't always get a hi-hat that raises up all the way or doesn't go down low enough. Sometimes the hi-hat's up here. I can't do anything about that. And so I have to adjust my technique. That's why we practice technique so that you're comfortable with that. Sometimes the bass drum I don't have a bass drum, or it keeps falling down because it's broken. So I have to be aware, every time I hit the bass drum, floor tom rather, it might fall down, or it might, topple over, or I can't get it in the So just being aware of your surroundings, right? If you are a person that drives, you are aware of your surroundings. This is my surroundings. Same thing with if I'm playing with a flute player or an acoustic guitarist. That instrument is a lot softer than my instrument. I need to be aware of the physics of how the sound is produced. The sound that's coming to me from the drums here is different over there. There might be an audience member sitting right here. There might be somebody who's 500 feet away, and the drums might not be mic'd. And I can't just bash away. The sound will travel. Okay, thinking ahead in your plan. Thinking ahead. What do I mean by this? Well, I actually think what I'm playing. If I'm playing a phrase like I did before, I already know and feel what's going to happen at the end of the phrase, right? Somebody who is the director or writer of a movie, they know what's going to happen at different plot points. They know what's going to happen at the end. The listener may not, but you're giving these senses, these little Easter eggs, or these little eggs as they call it, telling you that something's going to happen. Here, I'm going to play, and you might sense that I'm going to do a fill at the end of the phrase. Okay, I led up to that slowly, that there was something at the end. Now, let me do something completely different. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm not going to give you that fill at the end. Okay, the best thing I could think of was to stop playing. Just kind of pull the rug out from underneath. It's not very effective. It can be for sometimes, but that's not what you're thinking. It might work really well if somebody's filling in that spot. Sometimes I surprise myself, but I really do think ahead. Now, what that means is I'm not putting my ideas on somebody else. I just know some kind of fill has to happen. There has to be some sort of momentum into the next section of the song. Or, I'm ending somebody's solo. I can sense that a solo is ending. So I want to do something to create either intensity or shift the energy. So thinking ahead, and also in fluidity, in fills, think ahead. I know that I'm going to go to the tom, and I know I'm going to go to my floor tom here. And I know I have to end up on my hi-hat. I have to think about how am I going to go from here to here and then all the way over to here. Let me try. Okay, I know I'm going to get there, and so I have to have some sort of motion. You can see my body in slow motion. I'm already making that transition. Same thing with when I went back to the ride cymbal here. Look at my body right here. This is that moment right there. I'm leaning and my stick is up. If I don't lean, to me, it feels comfortable and I'm choked a little bit. You don't have to lean, you don't have to do big motions, but I'm physically moving a little bit. Think of it as kind of like there's an anchor. There's an anchor down there. Anchors are usually attached to boats, right? If anchors are attached to boats and they're not supposed to move, the boat still moves, right? It's on water. It's flowing. It's still doing this. There's still a motion. There's still waves. it doesn't mean that the boat's just not getting away. I think of this like the metronome, right? We don't have to play directly in the middle of that beat of the metronome, but it's there to just keep you in shift. Sometimes I play to the metronome, or sometimes I'm playing a live concert or a recording session where I'm playing to the metronome, and I still need to have that fluidity. If I'm trying to play exactly with the metronome, it's not going to feel good. It's not going to, I'm not going to play with the musicians. I'm just playing to the metronome. But if I'm using the metronome as an anchor, much like I think about my playing, there's the time, the boat's still going to shift, and that's okay. It's just saying, hey, we're here. It's in this ballpark around the anchor. The anchor's just not moving us, 50 yards that way. Okay. So that's thinking ahead. And I might come back to some of these in a little bit. Hearing and visualizing what you want to play. Okay. This is a great one because this means that you have to know what the drums sound like, what you want to sound like. And it also means that you have to visualize the setup of how it is. I do so much practice off the drum set, either if I'm traveling or if I'm just not on the drums. I'm thinking about playing the drums. I'm thinking about how I will move. Sometimes it's on my stomach, sometimes it's in my head. I think it's a really great practice tool. And a wonderful drummer named Daphnis Prieto actually talks about that, visualizing himself over the drum set or at the drum set and how it feels and it sounds to hit the drum. Now today, this ride cymbal is not one that I use as my main ride cymbal. It's usually used as a third ride cymbal. So when I'm playing it today, I'm feeling something different, but it doesn't feel odd to me. It just, because I know what that cymbal sounds like and what it feels like, even when I'm not playing it. Can you imagine what a song sounds like in your head without actually playing it on the radio? Can you hear the guitars? Can you hear what the singer sounds like? Can you hear what the drum groove is? That's a very powerful thing that you've internalized what, September sounds like, by Earth, Wind, & Fire. You can all hear those horn lines, but you're not listening to it. It's just in your head. It's a feeling. And so you have to do the same thing with your drums, with your instrument. In my head, I can tell you that those were the sound. It's not about perfect pitch or perfect tone. I just know that. Now, if I wanted to do a fill that's in my head, that's exactly what I thought of. So I practiced either singing phrases aloud, ooga dooga daga. I'm visualizing what it'll sound like, and I'm thinking about when I go here, the motion I have to make. It's not luck. It's a great way to practice luck, but it's actually even something that's similar called intuition. You create how you know and what you know the sound is that you're going for and the feeling of that. And visualizing it is practicing off the drums is powerful. Just practicing a groove. It doesn't mean you're practicing your technique or you're practicing, real life situations, but you're just practicing what it feels like to be there and what sounds. And that's something we can come back to that I might kind of harp on in a little bit. Okay, let's dive into some of the exercises because I have a few practice and exercises versus performance and reality. Let me define the difference. There are things that I practice that help my technique and my coordination. Those are not things I'm going to bring to a gig. Parts of those are going to show up. The coordination technique are going to be there, but the actual exercises, I won't be doing those on the gig. Sorry for anybody that wants to hear me practice triplets for 20 minutes over and over again. But music and rhythm is made up of shadow and light. There's a lot of negative space, meaning there's a lot of silence. And when I'm practicing exercises, there's not a lot of silence. So if there's any music teachers out there, I inform you to work with your students on practicing silence, how to rest in between. Sometimes when you say something that needs to be important or heard, you use silence and dynamics. I'm making myself laugh over here. I'll take a sip of my water for that. Yeah, silence is a very powerful tool. Rhythm is made up of space and time, where sound is placed in time, right? Sound, 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 sound. There's stuff in there that's silent. Sound, space, sound, space, sound, sound, space. There's more space in there than there's sound. If I did that without sound, without space rather, without the negative space, without the darkness, it would sound like this. It works, but not always, especially not always for drums. And drums are usually playing a lot. Okay. Here are some exercises that I use to work on fluidity and developing this fluidity. One of them is a flow exercise. I do this on a previous video, but I want to showcase and share it again. This flow exercise is hitting anything, anywhere, anytime. It doesn't matter how loud it is, how fast it is, how slow it is. You just have to hit the drums and get comfortable with your drums. But you cannot stop. That's the only rule. You cannot stop. Okay? I'm going to choose one rhythm, eighth notes, and I'm going to hit anywhere. Okay, that's an example of a flow exercise, hitting anywhere, anytime. Now, I can decide to adjust the knobs on this. I can play faster, slower. I could play softer or louder using dynamics. So using tempo, dynamics. I could put accents. I can decide, oh, I'm only going to use my toms, no cymbals. I'm only going to use this cymbal with these toms. Okay, so that's a flow exercise where I'm only using these three sounds. That's actually called using ratios. You could use ratios with your hands. My right stick is only going to play two sounds. My left stick can only play one sound. I can do the same thing for the left hand. Two in the left, one sound in the right. If I added a third sound on my left hand, it's a 3-to-1 ratio. It's just another way of thinking about playing and sound and movement, right? As soon as I move or I add a number to that stick, you have to think about that motion. Okay, so flow exercise. Diving more into that, let's add different rhythms there now, okay? So one of my favorite things, and that works so great, is these three types of, I guess we can call them rhythms, or I'm forgetting the word. It's escaping me. I'm sorry. Durations. Sorry, durations. Eighth notes, triplets, 16th notes. Eighth notes are counted 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3, 4 triplets. 1, 2 triplet, 2 triplet, 16th note. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E. Okay. The reason why I do this is because music is made up of different rhythms, and those 3 rhythms, those 3 durations are used quite a bit. So being able to flow between those changing. So I can do that same flow exercise where I'm playing anything, anywhere, except now I'm playing eighth notes, triplets, 16th notes. I can decide whenever I want to change it, or I can say every 4 bars I will change, every 8 bars, okay? So now you're adding a concept of time and phrasing. You could also say, I only play triplets on my small tom, and I only play 16th notes on my bass drum, or whatever, floor tom. I'm getting all the names confused. But I'm gonna just flow anywhere, and I'm gonna change when I feel like I wanna change, because I can. Here we go. The flow system, moving between eighths, triplets, 16ths. At first I started in 4-bar phrases, then I started moving in 2s, then I just started switching whenever. And I never felt verklempt on the drums. I never felt like I didn't know how I was going to get somewhere. I surprised myself a little bit, which is really good. But I was always thinking about the movement, and I was thinking about the sound. Oh, I know I want to do something with the cymbal because I'm liking the way it sounds and feels. And so I was kind of focusing on that. And I thought I should add my feet as well. So I started adding my feet a little more. And that's a different type of exercises that you could work on. Okay, so now let's add on to the flow system. Now that we are practicing anywhere and everywhere, and we have eighths, triplets, 16th notes, now we can add stickings, meaning which stick do we play with? So this is going to have a lot to do with technique as well. And there are 3 different stickings that I highly recommend that you work on, and that is single strokes. Each hand, each stick being thrown down is 1 time, a single stroke. Double strokes, meaning each stick gets 2. And paradiddles. Paradiddles are right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. So now let's do the flow system, same thing. And I'm going to use, I'm just gonna do eighth notes for now, but I'm gonna do eighths, triplets, 16th notes. Sorry. Only 8 notes using singles, doubles, paradiddles. Okay, I'm a very visual person. I usually write this down, but I'll send it to you somehow. Okay, here we go. Eighth notes with single strokes. you are going to want to play all the doubles on one instrument, and you're also going to want to double them in speed. A lot of people do this. We're not doubling to 16th notes. We're still staying in 8th notes. We're just getting a nice flow, moving the stickings in our hand. Why do we have stickings? Because it allows us to get to a sound more easily, right? It allows me to get around the drum set in a very easy and cool way. It's the same thing that we have right turns, we have left turns, and we have curves and roads. It's just a great way to get there by not turning right always and then all these rights, unless you're a person that only turns rights. Okay, now we could add on to the flow system. We could add on changing the sticking, singles, doubles, paradiddles, but also changing the duration. So the next thing you'll want to do is actually just change the duration, keep the sticking. Here's triplets, changing the duration. One triplet, two triplets, singles, doubles, one triplet, two triplets, paradiddles, singles, doubles, paradiddles and triplets are actually very interesting because it's a 4-note pattern. One triplet, two triplet, two triplet, four triplet, one triplet, two triplet, two triplet. So that's another thing, is adding accents in different places. And you can easily add accents by doing it on the toms. One triplet, two triplet. One triplet, two doubles. Okay, so we kept the duration triplets, but we changed the sticking. Same thing with 16th notes. Just changing the duration. Next thing you'll want to do is all of those. You'll want to change the duration, change the sticking, so you can do. Just kind of moving around, changing the duration. Now, there's one thing that you might notice. It's what I mentioned before, which is it's a lot of notes. I'm not going to show up to a gig playing a lot of notes. I'm actually not going to be soloing a lot either. Fluidity does not have to exist only on getting around the drum set, soloing, or in fills. It has to function while playing time. Because most of the time, as a drummer, you're going to play time. Okay, playing time, having little fills, but feeling very comfortable. I'm thinking about all of those motions and all of those little minuscule movements in my body and how I'm breathing between those. Now, finding the relationship to practice. Okay, you're saying, but Mark, why do I practice what I'm not supposed to play on the gig? Or why am I not playing on the gig what I'm practicing? There is the transition. Practice like you are playing on gigs. Practice space, practice just playing time, but also practice tunes. Practicing to a metronome is wonderful, but if you're not attached to playing a song or a tune, then you're missing the point of playing music. It can be anything. When I'm doing these flow exercises, I'm always thinking of a song. It could be Girl from Ipanema. It could be This I Dig of You by Hank Mobley. It could be Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. It's a great song. Let me do that while playing time. Okay, so I used a very easy tune that I know. I grew up with it. I hope you know it as well. It's also ABCs. It's something I don't have to think about. Do I know the words? Do I know the melody? I can just hum it. I can sing aloud. I actually encourage you singing a song aloud because it means that you're breathing. And this is something that's new, and you have to breathe when you're singing. So breathing is great. Counting aloud is great. I say this in all of my videos over and over again. You can make a compilation and put it on TikTok of me saying breathe. Okay, tune learning. It's so great when I'm practicing a new song or when I know I have to solo over a song or anything. I'm not practicing that song. I'm practicing that song that will help me with every other song that I'm doing. So my practice is very blanketed. I'm practicing dynamics. I'm practicing it fast and slow. Twinkle, twinkle, little star fast. Okay, so I can practice. I can play that fast and slow because my technique, I have that together, and it's allowed me to play fast. I'm thinking ahead, I'm breathing, I know the melody, so I can play the melody. If you don't know what to play in a solo and you're stuck, or you're working on your flow, play the melody. And you can play around the melody, you can play in between the melody. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you all like. So playing in between those negative spaces, those silences, can also be interesting and powerful as well. So including your other limbs, playing your limbs together, bass drum, playing, practicing your left hand and your bass drum is a very cool thing. Finding sounds like that, that's something I've been doing recently as well. Practicing sounds that, don't always go together. Acrostic and a bass drum. It's very cool. Playing 3 sounds at the same time. and being able to dynamically choose what of those three are going to be loud and soft. When I'm playing the drums, I'm thinking of it like I have these knobs in my head like a mixer, and oh, is the snare drum going to be louder? Is the hi-hat or the cymbal going to be louder? Oh, let me turn down the bass drum a little bit. So I'm able to control that based on my technique, and I'm able to play it because of my coordination, and I'm able to flow around the drums and have fluidity because of I'm thinking about the movement. And I do want to say separately, stretching is very good for you. Just stretching out your arms. I'll simply do this. I'll do this. I'll put my hand, do this one for sure. I'll do those each for 10 to 15 seconds. I'm always trying to get nice and loose in my wrists and my arms. I'll move out my arms. I'm shaking out a lot because, you know, if you're holding, there's gonna be times where you're not breathing, or where things are uncomfortable, or where you're sitting for a long time, or you're sitting on a plane or a car, or you've just slept for hopefully 8 to 10 hours a night, and you just get up and go do something. Your body has to be ready for that. You know, playing is very athletic, and you need to take care of that, meaning you just have to stretch, as simple as that. Are there any questions? Because I think that might do it for now. There's a lot on this topic, but I'm gonna leave it there. So I want to just recap really quick. Fluidity, rhythm, flow. Having good technique, allowing the stick and your limbs to function naturally. Having good choreography and smooth motions by knowing the difference in static playing and dynamic playing. Breathing, knowing your instrument and getting around the instrument, thinking ahead in what your sound is and where you're going to end up on the drums, and hearing and visualizing what you want to play, and also practicing off the drums and visualizing what it feels like, what it sounds like, and how you're moving between all of those limbs. So that's it for today and this session. Thank you, Michael, for hosting, and thank you to the Clearwater Jazz Holiday and the Clearwater Jazz Foundation and the Young Lions Jazz Master Sessions online. I'm Mark Feinman, and thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Mark, for an awesome session, developing fluidity on the drum set. And yes, this will be in our archives. I'm pretty sure whether you're a beginner musician or a seasoned musician, you can go back and rewind and take notes and play along with Mark and learn so much. So we want to thank you again, Mark. And also we want to remind everyone, check out our upcoming free sessions at www.clearwaterjazz.com/education. And please email us, give us some feedback at info@clearwaterjazz.com. And we look forward to seeing you out in the community, out and about, listening to jazz. Continue to support these local artists, and we'll see you. Keep swinging.